with me. My name is Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditzies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. That's right. Miss Liz is back. And today I have an incredible author in the house, Trisha Copeland. And we're going to talk some magic. That's right. We're going down some magic roads today. And we're going to have some fun with all of her new books and stuff like that as well. And we're going to get to know Trisha a little bit more. But before we get started, we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel and give you a quick subscribe over there. And you can check out these tea times. You can catch them on a replay or catch the live streams. And share your comments and feedback, because I always like to hear what you guys think of these tea times. Also, if you'd like to listen on Spotify, jump over to Miss Serving Tea with Miss Liz. I like to keep you guys on your toes so that you guys can look for Miss Liz. So let's get started with the disclaimer, and then I'm going to do an intro, and we're going to get Trisha in here, and we're going to spill some tea. And today's tea is abundance, blessed, and transformative. And we're going to understand why Trisha gave me those words in just a little bit. So let's get started. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by the guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to this discussion. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Ms. Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit Miss Liz's Tea Times on Linktree. By choosing to participate in comments on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz, myself, is welcoming you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. And let me give you a little bit on my guest. So today, I am thrilled to bring to the table Trisha Copeland, an award-winning author whose stories beautifully blend imagination, courage, and heart with a gift for weaving words that inspire. Trisha takes us on a journey where characters discover strength, resilience, and the magic that lives within us all. This afternoon, she joins us to explore her topic, Finding the Magic, where stories spark the soul. Together, we'll uncover how storytelling has power to ignite hope, awaken possibilities, and connect us to something greater. Please join me in welcoming Trisha Copeland to Tea Time. Welcome, Trish.
Hi,
Trisha.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you here. Trisha, I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole, the little fairy rolls and all of that. So who was Trisha as a little girl and who's Trisha now?
Ooh, as a little girl, I'm a first child, so always very studious, always doing the right thing. If I happen to mess up on the slight occasion and was, punished, I took that very much to heart and did not do that again. So very much a rule follower and person who kind of just went with the status quo and did the right thing.
I am here with you. We're just having a little glitch. So we're just going to take that glitch out of here and we're going to continue. So, Trisha, what got you into writing? From what I can tell, your books are adult romance and magic and science fiction. What got you into those topics?
Right. Yes. My titles ended up being all over the place in various genres, but I started out writing my own experience with anorexia. So in college, I developed anorexia and had to leave school and seek treatment for anorexia. And I think it was my 20-year high school reunion. I was really looking back at my life and thinking about, where I started, how much of an impact that experience had on my life and where I was now. So I was a stay-at-home mom and I didn't do much during the day except follow my kids around. So during the evening, I started writing this story based on my experience. So I wrote a fictionalized account of my experience with anorexia. And I didn't feel like I could, wrap it up in one book. I mean, how can you explain something as complicated as anorexia or addiction or any of those mental health disorders that sometimes we find ourselves in? Depression, any of those cannot be explained. And looking at a snapshot of somebody's 6 months or 1 year or anything like that. So I really wanted to show, the progression, the issues the character was dealing with, and ended up writing a 4-book series that is based, as I said, a little mostly on my experience, but just to show the hope and recovery and the transformation that someone can go through from an experience like that.
I kind of like that you're in all these different genres, because it is hard to tell a story sometimes, and mental health is like a mix of different genres as well, right? Some days we have the good days, we have the bad days, and all of that. So, how old were you when you wrote your first book, Trisha?
When I started writing, I was 38, and I published 7 years later. So it took me a while to write the first 2 books. And get an editor and have it polished and ready to go out into the world. So I published the first book in 1945. And that year I published the first 2 books of that series, the Being Me series. And then over the next 2 years, I finished the 3rd and 4th books. So then after I finished writing that series, I just realized that I loved writing. I loved creating these characters and these stories, and very quickly jumped to my favorite genre, which was fantasy. So a lot of my books are young adult fantasies. And then to temper that drama in my life, because I get very invested in my characters and sometimes bad things have to happen to them, I switch over and write a fun romance where the worst thing that can happen is, the guy breaks up with you or something like that.
They always break up with us, right?
Well, you might leave them too. It's not always the guy.
Yeah, that's true. But what got you inspired into writing? Like, you wrote your first one at 38. So what was it at that age that you were like, I'm going to write a book and this is how I'm going to do it?
And I didn't really set out to write a book. I was set out to kind of, think about my experience and have a look back on it. And I'm not sure I was bored. So I would do it at night after my kids went to bed. Instead of watching Netflix, like, I created this story in my head, like I was creating my own little movie. And I had no writing skills. I was a technical writer, but, didn't know plot, didn't know character development, didn't know any of these things that you should probably know before you start fiction writing. So it was definitely a process. I had like 150,000 words. and I gave it to my sister-in-law, and she said, "Oh, you have to do something with this. This is really good." And so I had a friend that was an editor, and she indie published too, and she helped me like condense it up a lot. It was basically a movie script, and it needed to be a novel. So that there was a lot of editing there.
I like that you said that you were bored and you wrote a book. Like, yeah, I'm bored. I'm just going to write a book.
Yeah. And like I said, it didn't really start that way. It just started as something to do in the evening, something creative. And I guess before that, I never realized I needed that creative outlet, but it was definitely something that, inspired me and took my time, took that 1 hour of time I had after my kids went to bed before I fell asleep.
So Trisha, you write across many genres. So how do you balance the different worlds? Because it's different writing guidelines and stuff like that as well, right? For the science fiction and then young romance and that. So how do you balance the different worlds of writing?
Right. Well, I only want to write one thing at a time. So I'm completely focused on that world and those characters. I do find that I can't read in the genre that I'm writing in because I don't want to be, I guess, swayed by any other fantasy. If I'm writing fantasy, I don't want to be swayed by any other fantasy notion or fantasy character or plot line or anything like that. So if I'm writing fantasy, I'm usually reading a romance, although I don't read tons when I'm writing. But so I try to like write every day, so my characters and my plot is front of mind. And really, I'm thinking about the book all the time. If I'm driving by my car, I'm thinking, was that right, what I just wrote? Or what's happening next? What is their next challenge? And yeah, it is different. Like YA fantasy has to be very fast paced. The fourth book in the series, my Fae series I wrote, my editor sent it back and she said I was bored for half the book. I was like, wait, no, she told me the first 10 chapters and I looked at it.
She's going to write a book now.
Yeah, she said the first 10 chapters I was bored. And I thought, the first 10 chapters, that's like half the book. So I definitely, I need those people reading my books to say, hey, you need to amp this up a little bit. It's just when you have YA fantasy, you need to have those, definitely action and adventure component is mixed in with the character development to keep things rolling. And that's what kind of book I like to read too. So I was surprised I didn't catch it myself, but that's what happens sometimes.
Well, when we're writing our own books, we're right into it too much sometimes. And that's why we need the editors and outside resources that come in and say, you know what, no, this is how you may see it, but this is not how the book is going to end, right? A lot of the little baby nuggets that are put into books, what we think are like amazing, an editor will come in and say, no, that's just too much or not enough or dig deeper, right? So how do you build your characters for your books?
I usually start with characters. Usually my ideas for books come from the character first and just placing them in a world where usually it's meant to show like some trait or feature or maybe even some unrealized potential that they have. So with my fairy series, the Realm Chronicles series, I saw an image of a fairy and she was hunched in a meadow. And I thought, I'd never written about fairies, really didn't know that much about fairies except for like Tinkerbell and yeah, I just saw her hunched in a meadow and she looked scared or anxious. And I thought, oh, why is she scared? What is she anxious about? And who's, what enemies are hunting her or what are her challenges? And from there, this whole world grew where she was a princess who had lost her 4 older brothers and she was next in line for the throne, but she was to be the first female monarch in her realm. And what else is she worried about? Who are these enemies that are coming to get them? So yeah, it's all very character based and looking at people's challenges and what they have to overcome and what might be their strengths in overcoming that.
So you mentioned Tinkerbell. Well, my cat's name is Tinkerbell, so I kind of she just never grew. She just stayed small, so it was a perfect name. But what kind of names have you given your fairies in your stories?
Yeah, so I, looking back, I could have been maybe a little more creative with their names. And I never really read or watched Midsummer Night's Dream, but I was like Googling names for fairies and, well, I guess Titania is how the name is traditionally pronounced, but I pronounce mine Titania with a very science background. I thought, oh, this is related to the metal, right? And it shows her strength. So her name is originally Princess Titania. She becomes queen, so she's mostly Queen Titania throughout the series. And then her father is Oberon, which I guess I stole that from Midsummer Night's Dream as well. But like I said, I didn't do tons of research. I just Googled fairy names and said, oh, this sounds good. So they're not related to the other story, though.
So how many books have you written in total so far, Trisha?
My last release, which was the finale of the Realm Chronicles series, was my 23rd book.
And how long does it take you to write a book?
I've written a book as short as 6 weeks, and then like I said, my first book was 7 months or 7 years. So, between it can just vary how I usually set a deadline for myself. So I have my contract with my editor, and I know how, what I need to write every day, and then I just keep working towards the goal.
So out of all the books you've written, which one was the hardest to write?
The hardest to write? Probably my own story, the Being Me series about my experience with anorexia. That was really hard emotionally to go back and relive some of those experiences with my character. But then the Realm Chronicles series, which I wrote, which is my most recent series, which is the Fae series, that was really hard to write. I had a very beloved character who, not so many great things happen to all these characters. So they have to overcome a lot. And that was really hard. I get emotionally involved with my characters and what's going on with them. And it just kills me to make them hurt. And I was so relieved when I finished the series, because I thought, okay, nothing else bad is going to happen to these characters. They're going to live happily ever after from now on.
So writing your own story, how did that feel after it was published?
It felt good, but it also felt very raw. And I knew I wanted to say that, this was based on my experience, because I wanted people to know that I knew what I was talking about, and I knew what it felt like to be in that experience, and also to raise awareness of eating disorders and the hope for recovery from eating disorders. So I knew I wanted that component, but it was also kind of scary to put yourself out there and have people ask questions about about your experience. But I think it kind of takes being vulnerable I think that was one of the first things I learned in my recovery, that being vulnerable was not weak, that being vulnerable and sharing your truth and being human connected you with other people rather than separated you from other people. I think I learned from a very young age, like, oh, you just, to the outside world, you look perfect, right? You leave all that stuff under the rug at home. You don't even talk about it there. And, but that was not how I needed to be. That was not the person I needed to be, because I needed to connect with people, and I couldn't be this little island and take care of everything myself. So that was the biggest lesson I'm grateful for in that experience.
And Trisha, that book is called Is This Me, right?
Right. So the first book is This Me? It really starts when she's a freshman in college and goes through her whole experience in college as she descends to her disease and then in her recovery.
And then I also see here that you have the Kingdom of Ember, the Kingdom of Darkness. Are those some of your latest books?
So that's the crossover series to the Realm Chronicles series, which is my most recent series. So I started the Kingdom Journal series, starts with Kingdom of Embers. It's a 4-book series with a prequel. And that is about a trinity of witches who have to come together to break a curse on the witch lines. The witches, and at the same time I was writing that finale to that series, Kingdom of War, is this time when I saw the image of the fairy. And it was in an advertisement for an anthology that needed fairy characters with mental health challenges. So my fairy became a princess with anxiety and panic disorders. So those are hard to overcome when you want to be queen, right? And you really don't want them when you want to be queen, because you want to be seen as strong. But in the finale to the Kingdom Journal series, they needed an army to fight this army of witch imbued vampires. I'll just say that to make it simple. So there was an army of vampires that the witches needed to fight, and they needed an army. And I thought, who could help the witches? The fairies could help the witches. So Queen Titania and her army comes to help the witches. And then I just couldn't leave her story alone. She had to have her own series, and her series became the Realm Chronicles 5-book series.
Yeah, because you have a lot of amazing books. If anybody wants to check out, they can go to your website and they can find like incredible books. The book that I was sent by Mickey, I'm going to pull that book up so that we can talk about that one a little bit. We have talked about other books that you've written, but let's pull up the book that Mickey sent me, and then let's get that up here so people can see the image. I really like the. I want to know a little bit about the colors. How you brought it to life and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, that's my most recent.
There we go.
To be a fae.
So tell me a little bit about the colors and who this princess is, and is she a fairy? All that good stuff.
Right. So she is a fairy. She, like I said, she's 15 at the beginning of the series. She's a princess, and she's lost her 4 brothers. So she's the last in her line to take the crown in her kingdom. And like I said, she's 15. She's a fairy. My fairies do have wings. I didn't read a lot of fairy lore, so a lot of fairies do not have wings. My fairies do have wings. My fairies live in Middle Earth, which is, and it's funny because it's a contemporary series, but the fairies live in Middle Earth, which is below the bedrock of our world, our human world. And so they entered their realm through these fairy portals, which are magically charged with these 12 crystals. So the fairies can go back and forth. Some humans can go back and forth. Witches can go. Some beings can go in, but they can't get out if they go in. So there's different rules for different beings. But the fairies know about our realm, know about our technology, but choose not to have electricity or telephones or computers or any of those things. So it feels very medieval and more epic fantasy throughout much of the series rather than an urban fantasy with the Kingdom Journals. But in the later part of the series, the witches do come help Titania fight this evil spirit who's been hunting all of them for as long as both of these series have going on. So that's kind of the crossover portion between the series. And yeah, the cover is amazing. Eleanor and Lori Jones of Shara Smith Design did the cover. And I think I saw the cover as like a pre-made cover initially. I don't really know how that came about, but and her image, she was an ice queen originally. She had white hair, very white skin, no wings. And, but I needed the red hair, and the jewels on her head came as the ice queen image. And I wrote that into the story. Like in the first book, to be a fae queen, she gets these jewels on her head after she goes into lower earth or hell. She gets caught there for a bit and then gets ejected, and all of a sudden has these jewels on her head, which no other fairy has. So that makes her a little bit special too.
So Trisha, what's with the red hair?
She just has red hair. I don't know why I decided to give her red hair. I've always wanted red hair. I have green eyes, and I really thought if I had red hair, it'd look really cool. So maybe that's why I gave her red hair. I don't know.
You know, like for my audio listeners out there, like the image that is on the screen right now, it's got such a magical feel to it as well, with the blending of the colors, the red, the white, the crystals. Everything just comes like a magical kind of like, you know, like the sparkles, like the twinkles that you get when you think of a fairy, right? So I really like the colors and the flow of this. The crystals on, you mentioned the 12 crystals. Are the 12 crystals kind of a story in themselves, or?
Crystals that power the rings? No, not really. It's part of, I mean, it's definitely in the first book, To Be a Fae Queen. It tells how they use the crystals and how they can close their rings and open their rings. And there's these ring judges who are in charge of the rings, and nobody else is supposed to open or close them. And the ring judges have a court and they're kind of rulers too. Like there's a monarch in each of the 9 kingdoms, but there are also these ring judges who form the High Council, who really make the rules for the rest of the Fae realm. So the crystals are really held by the judges, but where that comes in is the fairies get their sunlight and all their water and all their rain from our world. So these openings, these fairy rings, allow the water and the sunlight to pass through. So if those are closed or broken or can't be opened in some way, then the fairies would fall into darkness, their plants would die, they wouldn't have any water. And that's happened before in their history. So in the first book, that's very much a threat. Titania has to figure out who is stealing these crystals and why, and try to stop them.
Trisha, we have a question that just came in about mental health. You mentioned that your books, you bring a lot of story of mental health awareness through your characters. Is that a form of getting your story out there as well through the characters?
Definitely with my first series, it was my experience with anorexia and recovery from anorexia. But even, I mean, at different points in my life, I've had different, I guess, anxiety problems. Like at some point, stress would cause my stomach to hurt, and that was like a year. And I was like, wow, this sucks. And then, for a period of time, I had anxiety. So I feel like my stress is played out in different ways in different times in my life. I have had panic attacks, anxiety, stomach issues, hives. I feel like stress affects our physical body in so many different ways at different times in our life. And it was fun to write this character that also had anxiety and panic attacks, and to write how she was able, through some other characters too, to just like mirror, and because they didn't really give her any help. They kind of just tucked her away and said, study, just stay here and study. We don't want you to go out and be more stressed. So when she finally does come out into society again, there's more stress even. And so she has a couple of friends that kind of give her some feedback on how she can deal with this and maybe what triggers this, because nobody really kind of helped her figure that out either at all. So yeah, so it was fun to write that character.
So Tricia, we have another question here. What book would you recommend for somebody suffering with any mental health issues?
Well, they're all fictional books, so I don't want to pretend that they're any type of self-help or guided books. But I feel like reading can take us out of our own, especially in a fantasy world. It's kind of good sometimes to take out all the other worldly stressors and say, hey, okay. So, depending on what your mental health challenges are, I mean, To Be a Fae Queen is a great one to pick up if you have anxiety or panic attacks, I think. And really, my first series being me, I talk about anorexia a lot, but the character's also depressed and she is assaulted. So she has to it's not a sexual assault. I'll just go ahead and say that. But she has to very much recover from this assault. And it's kind of a random thing that happens. So she has a lot of mental health things going on. She has issues with her family and then issues with her personal relationships. And so that might be a good series. It's a contemporary series. The Being Me series was my first series. So yeah, just depending on what you like to read and what you're thinking about at the time.
Well, I think, Tricia, sometimes storybooks take us away from that heavy load, right? It's just like when things get too heavy, we throw in some dark humor sometimes. So throwing a good book in and taking you away from that heaviness, we don't look at books for mental health resources, to understand, because a lot of characters that are built with a lot of stories are stories of a person trying to express themselves, or if I could be a fairy, if I could be a witch, if I could be, like we kind of put ourselves into these characters, right? As we get through our own situations and stories as well. So I want to thank that listener for asking those questions. Because mental health is something that we don't really talk about. We say the word mental health, but we don't speak of it, right? We don't understand that diagnosis is in that as well. And for anybody that is suffering from anorexic, I really encourage you to check out Trisha's book, because sometimes a book can make a difference. It might open up a door and get you to share your story as well. So thanks for sharing your story with that book as well, Trisha, because I know that wasn't easy. I'm going to take you down some rabbit holes now. We're going to get into your tea and understand your tea and all the other questions that I've asked you. And then we have a couple more questions here that came in that I want to get out to you. So let's get into your tea. You gave me abundance, blessed, and transformative. Why those 3 words?
Well, I feel like my life is very abundant now. I have a daytime job that I work. I have my own company, which I never thought I'd own my own company. And, my author business is sort of my own company too. So I basically own 2 companies. So it's very abundant. And I meet so many people through both of those companies. And I feel like my life has been so much more enriched, especially through my author career. Just the number of people I've met, the number of different people I've met, and that I get to share my stories with, and that email me and say, "Oh, I love this character. I love this character. I love this," or I connected with this character because of this. And like, I just feel like that has given me enriched my life abundantly.
So, and I want to get into the word bless. Why blessed?
Because I do feel blessed. I feel lucky. And I can, every moment of every day, I'm not going to feel like that. But if I can break it down and look at things through eyes of gratitude, I can start with one little gratitude thing, like, oh, I got to walk my dog this morning. And it was a nice morning. It wasn't pouring or blazing hot, or fortunately, it wasn't smoky today. If I can start by just seeing those things in my life, then it gets me in that positive spin. And I can look at, obviously there are going to be things you have to fix, things you have to face. We don't want to be, and I shouldn't even say Pollyanna, but you don't want to be, just looking at rose-colored glasses, right? You do have to face things, but if you can face them in a more positive light, or, see the good along with the struggle, then that has really helped me not be in the doom and gloom all the time.
I like that, because it is, right? Like, life is hard sometimes, but we are blessed and grateful. And, abundance does come to us when we are blessed for what we have. And taking a dog out without the rain is a nice thing too. Now let's get into the last word, transformative. Why that word?
I feel like my whole author journey has been very transformative. I wouldn't have told you now 10 years into publishing that my world would be like this. Like, I would be, lucky enough to talk to people like you who are like out there and sharing the message of mental health. And that I didn't even think of myself as a creative person, because my background was science, and I did research and I did technical writing. And to me, those weren't creative things at all. And I just didn't see myself in that light. And I guess at different points in your life, you see yourself different ways. But I think it's really transformed, and how I think about myself and my outlook on myself, the confidence I have in being able to achieve writing a book and getting it out there in the world, and just having people, acknowledge, hey, I like your book, or hey, I like that character, and go along those journeys with me. So those words, it was fun to pick the words. It was fun to really think about and pick the words.
Well, and that's what I like. I like when my guests really think, and then they're like giving me a strong cup of tea, because like I say, I can't serve your tea. You guys have to serve your own tea, right? All I can do is host. It's like you guys bringing your tea to the table, right? And that. So I also asked you your favorite color, and you gave me black. Now I'm curious about why black.
I've always I'm wearing a black shirt too. I always like black, and I don't know. I just like it. I like wearing it all the time. It's funny. My hair is going gray, as you can kind of tell. My hairdresser was like, well, I think you're going to want to wear more colors when you get gray hair, because gray hair is she didn't say boring, but you know, I think that's what she insinuated. And I thought, really? I don't know. I don't know if I can wear colors. I think because it's simple and it goes with everything. Like I'm not a fluey person. Like I don't put on earrings. I've had this pair on for 20. No, that's a lie. 20 is too much. I've had this pair on for like 10 years and probably they're going to have to pry them out of my ears at some point. I mean, I wash them and everything, but I haven't taken them off. So I like being basic, you know, I like just having the same color. Probably a little bit weird that way.
You know what? You talk about gray hair, right? I find that gray hair has got some magic in it. I don't know about you, but everybody wants to cover the gray, cover the gray, cover the gray. Why do you guys want to hide the gray? It's like the magic within us that we want to hide all the time. So when you look at your gray hair, do you look at it as a magical kind of sparkle to your life? Or
I do. I like it now. Like when I first started doing it, I thought it was going to be all white because my roots always looked all white. But now, see, I wanted it to be like kind of cooler. I wanted it to be like more striped, but I got a little bit of a stripe. But I'm really trying not to like dye my hair. So that was like an expense that I didn't really need. I didn't need to go there every 6 weeks, right? So yeah, it turned out better than I thought. So that made me happy. And yeah, I'm embracing it. And if you go to all the like silver hair or gray hair Instagram pages, these women look amazing. And I have 2 friends that are doing it with me, so that we've all been a support group for each other.
absolutely, you know, and gray hair is our wisdom. I always tell my kids this is my wisdom hair, let it be. Because my kids are like, Mom, when are you gonna dye your hair again? I don't got time for that stuff anymore. This is where I am. Like, leave the grays alone. So you have friends that are doing this journey with you with the gray hair. So tell us a little bit about that journey, because that's kind of like a sisterhood journey, right? Of the gray hair club.
Yeah, my one friend did it first, and she has thick, beautiful hair. Yeah, and hers is like really white in the front and a little grayer in the back. But if I could have hair, it would be hers. But or thicker hair or different hair, it would be hers. So she did it first. And I just like 2 years ago, I was just like, why am I doing this? Why am I coloring like? And it went from like 6 weeks to every month that I was like trying to do it. And my hair was thinning. And I was like, you know what? I could have healthier hair. I think I could just stop all this and stop spending like $125 a month on this and just see what happens. And so that's the hard part, waiting to see what happens. So yeah, you can tell I still have like a little brown and blondish, like a couple of inches, maybe 3 inches down here. So just waiting to see what happens is the hard part. And I was like, oh, you never know what's going to be. And if I get 2 years down the road and I hate it, you can still change it.
You're right. We still have that option. If we don't like it, we can always change it, right? And I like that it's outgrowing like that, Trisha, because it kind of like tells a story, right? Of the journey of the gray hair. You know, instead of it just waking up one morning and it's all gray and you're like, whoa, what happened there? You know, what book did I read last night that this happened? Like,
yeah, I'll never, that would be funny. Yeah. When I was young, I must've been like 8. My grandmother lives like 6 hours away from us. So we didn't see her maybe like 3 times a year, 4 times a year. And she had really beautiful auburn hair, sort of like my character. Maybe that was it. Anyway, and she used to be a model when she was younger. So she always wore heels and she was always like dressed to the nines, right? For whatever age she was, right? Well, I go see her one time and her hair is completely white. Like the last time I saw her, it was completely auburn and then it was completely white. And I was like, whoa, how did this happen? But she had beautiful white hair, like white hair, not a tinge of anything else. And it was so beautiful. Yeah. But as a kid, I was like, wow, that's magical.
Right. Don't see very much white hair anymore. It's mostly gray. And I think it's because of all the chemicals that we have put in our hair that it turns to the gray tinge instead of the white. I think if we never dyed our hair, I think our hair might have turned white.
Interesting. Maybe so.
right? So we have a question here. Your favorite magical book or story from childhood?
From childhood, Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz. That was the first fantasy series I read. I don't know if there's like 13 books, and there's like about the Tin Man, and all the different characters have their own book. And I just devoured that series, and I couldn't wait to get the next one to read during the summer. So that was the first fantasy series that I ever read. And then in high school, I was like obsessed with King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and Merlin. And then I got into a little horror period for a little time, but not very long. I don't like reading horror, but yeah, then read Lord of the Rings. So yeah, definitely that Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. I loved those books, and I kept reading them over and over too. It was fun.
Well, it doesn't surprise me that you said Wizard of Oz because of Glenda. She kind of looks like your fairy. She kind of looks like your fairy.
Mm-hmm.
With the pink and the purples and all of that, like the bubbles, right?
I don't know why I had my banner up for my last podcast and I forgot to put it up there. But yeah, somebody was like, she looks like you. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe.
I was going to say that when I had the book pulled up, I was like, is that you? And a Photoshop of you with diamonds and crystals on you? Because it does look like you, Trisha.
Yeah, maybe the long nose and the cheeks or something. I don't know. Yeah, got lucky on that one. And I had my fantasy character art done. That's my banner. So I'm sorry I forgot that, but I'll have to send you that image.
So when you're writing, what do you turn to? Coffee, tea, wine? What do you turn to when you're writing?
I'm a Diet Coke drinker. I was raised in the South, and it's too hot to drink anything else. So I drink Diet Coke at 5 a.m. when I wake up, and that is what I drink.
You see how I got the Diet Coke in there? Like you told me that before we went live, and I just I throw that in there. Because there are people that when they write, they turn to a certain beverage and stuff like that as well because it relaxes them. So
it's the only way of caffeination. So yeah.
The one word that describes your writing style.
It's very personal, I would say. All my characters and all my books are written so far are written through the first person point of view. So you really get that close personal, what that character's thinking, what that character's feeling, experiencing. And that can be different in fantasy. Like a lot of fantasy is written in that third person. So you get more viewpoints than just the one character, but it's definitely, I would say personal. That's the word, because it's definitely about mainly that main character's journey. I mean, some of the other characters you're going to see their character development and their transformation and growth too, but it's mostly centered upon that one main character.
And we have a question here. What challenges have you faced as an author navigating different genres?
Sometimes I shouldn't even say this because I've been challenged in writing. I like romance, like I like reading romance, but I've been challenged in writing romance, like because I'm such a I love fantasy and like fantasy characters and fantasy worlds. Sometimes romance seems kind of boring to me. Like I obviously I find ways to make it interesting, but I don't just do the cookie cutter sweet romance. I can't do that. I learned a long time ago that it has to be a little bit deeper than the cookie cutter. You get one sweet kiss at the end and there's happily ever after. My characters are definitely have more depth than just the sweet romance characters. So that's been challenging to create something that feels not too heavy, but also real and true to life.
Well, writing romance, do you bring in the struggles of a romance story as well?
Definitely. Right. Yeah. I mean, you never have, well, maybe some people do have straightforward paths, but I didn't have a straightforward
Prince
path.
Charming gives you a kiss and boom, you're happily ever after, right? And that's boring.
Right. And actually the first romance novel I wrote that was just to me strictly a romance. It was called Perfect. And it's 5 different stories, basically, of the same character at different points in her life. And really the point for me was that you can have a perfectly happily ever after story at any point in your life, well, I go through age like 30-ish, young 30s, but at different points in your life under different circumstances. So in the beginning, she's in love with her high school sweetheart, and it's only 5 pages, I think, the first like part. And she falls in, she's in love with her high school sweetheart, and he proposes and she says yes, right? And then, so it's kind of a write your own ending, pick your own favorite boyfriends or, boyfriend story too. So different people like different characters for that, different love interests for that character. So it was fun to write. And I think most people kind of like that. I don't know that everybody got the point that, at different points in your life, at different instances or different situations can be perfect and you're happily ever after. And because sometimes you get to a point in your life where you're like, this seems wrong. It's never going to be right. Am I ever going to get to the place that can be perfectly, am I ever going to get to my happily ever after? And I think they just find you.
As you're saying this, Trisha, I'm thinking of a Daisy. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me. The little kid, that's what we used to do. Of a boy and then we were like, oh my God, he likes me. Or, oh my God, he doesn't like me.
Oh no, it's like the end of the world, right? When the flower became he loves me not.
Right? The journey of the daisy. Like as you were sharing that, I was just thinking of this daisy and you plucking it, right? Like are we going down this journey? Or are we not going down this journey? Are we taking this? Are we not taking this? Do you get your kiss today or do you not get your kiss today? All I seen was this daisy and you plucking the little petals off. Yeah, that's where I just went. I just went to a daisy, guys.
That's a great image. I like that.
Yeah, as you were explaining the storyline, I was just like, oh, I see a daisy. I see her picking. Like, maybe when you write your next book, you can have a daisy and you'll be like,
yeah, I put that in there now. Oh, say Liz.
Right? You have a pen name that I want to bring to the table, and it's Maria Jane. How did you get that name?
Right. So I started the Perfect Romance series with Perfect as Trisha Copeland. And then authors do everything different ways. And so I wrote the first 2 books, Perfect and Perfect Always, under Trisha Copeland. And then I thought, well, maybe I should separate this from my fantasy so people aren't confused. And so I started the new pen name Maria Jane, which is a combination of my sister's name, Marie, and my grandmother's name, Jane. So those are 2 people that I've been very close to and been very influential in my life, and that I know love romance stories. So that was kind of an easy go-to for me. And now my publicist we decided to make the whole Perfect series under Maria Jane. So the Perfect and Perfect Always will be re-released under Maria Jane. And then the 3rd book in this series is As Close to Perfect. And the 4th book in the series is, I'm going to get this wrong. What is the 4th? Oh, Perfect Office Pact, which is my office romance, obviously under Maria Jane. So yeah, I just kind of spun off my romance under that pen name so they can have a little separation.
And for all my listeners out there that don't know what a pen name is, could you tell them what they are?
Oh, right. So a pen name is just a different name than your legal name that you write under. So Trisha Copeland is actually my maiden name. And I have a long Polish name, which was not going to be great for the front of a book. So Trisha Copeland is my YA fantasy genre, or mostly young adult fantasy. And the Being Me series is still under Trisha Copeland. But then spin off as Maria Jane, and the same person, but just a different name on the books.
And what advice do you have for aspiring authors looking to find their own magic in storytelling?
I think just write what you're passionate about, right? I mean, people say write what you know, and I think that's the same thing as, if you're passionate about something, if you think you might want to write, if it brings you joy, just do it and keep on doing it. I definitely found people who, are great people and know, how to do editing and publishing and all of those things to help me along the way. So finding those people who you are great in their field and that you trust and are good people, that's very key as well.
And we have a question here for the Kingdom of Elmer and To Be a Fae Queen are fan favorites. What do you think draws readers into these magical worlds?
Okay, so Kingdom of Embers starts the Kingdom Journal series, and it tells Alina's story. She is one of the witches of the Trinity. She's 17 years old, and she's a half witch, half vampire character. So, and whose mother is the chancellor of the vampires and sends her to human high school. So she has just a few challenges there, where she has to pretend not to be a witch. She has to pretend not to be a vampire at this human high school. And on top of it, she has this curse that she's prophesied to break, and she has to figure out how to find the two other witches. And so, yeah, it's a really crazy story, but I think, it helps us explore like all those issues of being different and being not the same, and having to feel like you fit in, and where do you fit in? Do you fit in with this group or that group? So that's but I love like doing that magic in like our contemporary world, because I totally believe they're witches and vampires. I just want to meet one day. And then right, so then To Be a Fae Queen starts the Realm Chronicles series with initially Princess Titania rising to or being handed the crown to her kingdom and having to fight to keep that crown. So that's a really neat story of a young girl having to overcome those anxiety, panic attacks, as well as all the other monarchs in the realm are old male guys, and having to prove that, yes, she can do this, because in her heart, she knows she was meant to do it.
And Trisha, if you could live in a fictional world, where would it be and why?
Oh, it would definitely be in my Realm Chronicles series. I would want wings and to fly around, and to plant my crops and raise my goats, and then I would be perfectly happy. Just give me black clothes. I don't
So
know
you
if
like
I have
goats?
many black clothes. I want a cow too. I've
Black
always wanted a cow. Yeah,
a black cow
a black cow with white spots, of course.
with the crystals, right? Let's make a magical
That
cow.
would be cool.
We're writing a new book here. We're getting
Magical cows. Ooh.
Right? You just never know where you're gonna go. So we have I want to get it out there that you also have a podcast, and I'd like to also share other podcasts out there. So can you tell us a little bit about the podcast, how it came about, how you got the name, all that good stuff, and where people can find that podcast?
Right. It's Finding the Magic Book Podcast. And I was going to name it just Finding the Magic Podcast, but then I was like, well, maybe they think I'm, doing witchy stuff, which sometimes I try. But anyway, so, right. So Finding the Magic, it kind of encompasses my whole author business, I guess, or all my books, because I feel like there's magic in all of us, and that little spark of creativity or just things that we're good at or we notice in the world are magical. And when I started it in 2021, it was, we were kind of still in the pandemic, and they were shutting down all our book cons. And so I wasn't able to see my author friends. And that was a real lifeline for my creativity, because just having that community that I normally saw that I didn't get to see. So I thought, whoa, if I start a podcast, I'll get to start to talk to my author friends. Plus, we'll get to share all of our books with whoever will listen, right? So I started the podcast, and I talked to authors about their books. Ask them about their characters, their themes, their worlds. So if you listen in, you'll learn about new books every week. Well, and twice a week.
So you do it twice a week, your podcast?
I do it twice a week. Yes, Tuesdays and Thursdays. New ones come out.
So I found something on your website here, and I really want to bring it out. Find the magic inside a book. What does that mean to you?
That just means a new idea, a new story, a new connection. I guess I think new things are magical, but also I think nature is magical too. So I basically think everything is magical. But just finding something or even learning something you didn't know about, to me is sort of a little bit of magic.
And Trisha, I want to get the Start Series 99-cent out there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So all of my series, the first book in the series is 99 cents. So if you read Is This Me, which is the Start of Being Me series, or Kingdom of Embers, or To Be a Fae Queen, those are all 99 cents on Kindle. So you can start the series and see if you like it.
I kind of like that, because when I seen that 99-cent series, I was like, that's interesting. That's different. So what can people expect from you coming up Like, do you have any events, some book signings that people can check out?
Right. So I'm excited. I am signing at my local Barnes & Noble here in Superior, Colorado on September 20th from noon to 3. So that's very exciting. That's my first Barnes & Noble signing. And then I'll be in Laramie, Wyoming on November 15th. There's a book and craft fair put on by Bonsai Books and Blue Mountain Books out of Cheyenne and Laramie, Wyoming. And then next year, I don't have anything yet. So I'm going to have to get some things on the calendar.
Well, she's going to get some books out there, right? She's going to talk about the magical cow with the crystals and the daisy.
I do. Yeah, I do. There's a new fantasy magazine coming out in January, and they're publishing a short story, which is going to be about one of the characters from my finale in the Rome Chronicles. That is a Nyx. So it's a human fish shifter character. So that's pretty different.
So what would you tell the listeners out there about your writing journey, and if they wanted to start writing, what message would you have for them?
Like I said, just write what you love and keep doing it. I took a lot of writing classes, like plot classes, character development classes. Those really helped shaped, my book look like what it should look like, and that people expect a good story to be. I did finally start outlining after the fact. My editor got me to do that. So I outline after I finish a chapter, which helps me remember what I just wrote in the chapter. So those are all good tips. Just keep writing, I think is the biggest thing. Like if I write every day, it keeps it front of mind, and it makes it easier for the story to flow.
Trisha, we just had a question come in. Are your stories based on sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise or sunset? I would say sunrise, because most characters are going through kind of coming of age type, whether they're just, in that late teens to early adult periods.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I was just like, wow. I'm guessing they read some of your books because they were asking sunrise or sunset. So, so Trisha, where can people find you, and where can they find your books, all that good stuff? And if you could just spell out your website so that all the audio listeners can hear and reach out to you.
Right. So my website is triciacopeland.com, TRICIACOPELAND.com. If you go to the website, you can also download 2 free short stories. So a free short romance and a free short introduction to the Rome Chronicles series with Titania Rises. And those are fun ways to check out my stories and see if you like them.
So, and again, your podcast is twice a week, so people can find that on YouTube, Spotify, all those good places?
Yep, all the major places. I release my videos on YouTube, so if you don't, you can just listen to them or watch them, or either way.
So do you prefer audio or video when podcasting?
I like video when podcasting, because that way I like to see a person when I'm talking to them.
Right? Are they interested, or are they like, oh, I'm over here?
So, and plus when you're interviewing someone, seeing them is more fun too. So you get those facial reactions and things like that. I do listen to audiobooks a lot. That's my main way of consuming books right now.
And you do have audiobooks available, correct?
I do have audiobooks, the Kingdom Journal series, as well as the Rome Chronicles series. Not all, so the Kingdom Journal series is complete in audiobook. The Rome Chronicles series, the first 3 are complete. The 4th one will come out, fingers crossed, in October. And then next year, the finale will come out.
There we go. See, we have some things on the plate for people to check out. So.
Right, and I am writing a new romance by Maria Jane, so that will come out next year.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Trisha, for joining me. I'm just going to do a closing summary. And for everybody that is tuning in, I will be back at 7 p.m. with Lance Robinson, and we'll be talking about his book as well and get him down some rabbit holes and see where we go with that conversation. So today's Tea Time with Trisha Copeland reminded us that stories are more than just words on a page. They are sparks that light the soul, carrying lessons, healing, and a sense of wonder. Through her passion and creativity, Trisha shows us how storytelling can empower us to find the magic in both the extraordinary and the everyday. Thank you, Tricia, for sharing your wisdom, your heart, and your stories with us. May we all leave today's tea time inspired to seek out and embrace the magic in our own lives. Thank you, guys, and I will see everybody at 7 p.m. for the next tea time.